The lesson outcome for this video is, I can write linear equations given 2 points. Now before we jump into this actual lesson about writing linear equations when given 2 points, we need to first remember something called the slope formula. Now the slope formula, as shown right here, is y sub 2. This is read y sub 2. It means our second y value. Okay, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now where do these x and y's and 1's and 2's come from? Well, we have to remember that all points are written as an xy coordinate pair. All points. All right, so this is a comma here in between them. And what we're talking about with y sub 1 and y sub 2 and x sub 1 and x sub 2 there is that if we think about this being our first point, well, then we can call this x sub 1 and y sub 1. Okay? Because it's our first point, so we'll call it the first x coordinate and the first y coordinate. Okay, then we also have a second point that we have to use. And our second point is still an x, y coordinate pair. But this time, since it's our second point, we're going to call this x sub 2 and y sub 2. So our second x value and our second y value. Okay, so keeping that in mind, what we see here is that right here, y sub 2, we need to put our second y value into this formula first. So our second y value would come from here. And then we need to subtract our first y value. And our first y value is right here. Same thing in the denominator. We need to take our second x value, which is down here, and we have to subtract our first x value, which is up here. So all we have to do is really plug these values into the formula where they go. So let's just try this example right here. Let's say this is my first point, negative 2, 5. And this is my second point, 2, negative 1. Okay, what I would suggest is that we actually go through and label our points as x and y. So there's x and y on that point, and here's x and y on this point. And we also then want to go back and label them as the first point and the second point, so x sub 1 and y sub 1. And then our second point, so x sub 2 and y sub 2. Now that they're labeled with their x and y coordinate, we can just plug those into the formula. So we're going to take the slope formula. Remember that m represents slope. So I'm going to take this right here, and I'm just going to put my work into the formula. So the first thing we need to do is y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So I'm going to find my y sub 2 value, my second y value, which is negative 1, and I'm going to go ahead and put that into my formula. So negative 1, and then minus, and then our second, what we are subtracting here is y1, our first y value, which is right here, and that's 5. So we're going to subtract 5. Okay, then we're going to take our second x value. Our second x value is 2. And we are going to subtract our first x value, and our first x value is negative 2. Alright, so there we go. We plopped everything in where it goes. Remember that this is a formula that has subtraction in the numerator and the denominator. So now we have to simplify this. We're like, okay, negative 1 minus 5, well, that's negative 6. And 2 minus negative 2, remember that 2 minus a negative, this will become plus, because if you're subtracting a negative value, you're really adding. So 2 plus 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4. Negative 6 over 4 is our slope. We can simplify that by dividing the top and the bottom by 2. So negative 3 over 2 would probably be our best answer for the slope. Now, using that information that we can find slope of a line through 2 points, we are now going to be able to write the equation of a line that passes through 2 points. So we have actually the same 2 points right here that we did on the previous screen, just to keep it consistent here. So we want to write the equation of the line that passes through this. We want to finish writing this equation in our y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form. We will talk about writing equations in a different form in a different lesson. All right, so in order to do this, we need to fill in a value for m, and we need to fill in a value for b. So that's our job. Our job is to first find m, so we can plug it in, the slope, right? go ahead and write slope here. Then we need to find b, which is our y-intercept. And then we need to write the equation. All right, so step one, find the slope. Now we just did this, like I said, but I'm going to go ahead and just show this really quick. Here are my points up here, right here. I'm going to go ahead and label those. This is my x and my y of my first point, and this is my x and my y of my second point. And now we're going to put those into the slope formula where they belong. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is -1 minus y1 is 5. x2 is 2 minus x1 is -2. Again, I'm taking these values, getting them from right here, just plopping them in, and now we're going to simplify. Again, -1 minus 5 is -6, 2 minus -2 is 4, and we can once again simplify this into -3 over 2. So we found our slope. Our second step, now by the way, what that means is we can come up here and write y equals, and this slope can go right there, -3 over 2x. Now we need to figure out this plus b part. So to find our y-intercept, what we're going to do is write the equation that we have already partially written right here. We're going to write this down with plus b here. So I'm going to write y equals -3 over 2x plus b. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, we have to find b, right? That's our goal. We have to find b. So in order to find b, which is a variable here, we need to have no other variables. So we can't have a variable here and we can't have a variable here if we're trying to solve for this right here. So in order to solve for b, we need a number to put in for x and y. Well, we have two options right here. Two options. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pick either of those options, and we're going to put the x value in for x and the y value in for y. So I'm going to use an x value of -2 and a y value of 5. So I'm going to put 5 in for y. And I'm going to put in -2 for x. And now I'm going to solve for b. So what I have here is this 5 stays where it is. And now we have -3/2 times -2. First of all, a negative times a negative is a positive, so this will be positive. You can think about -2 as being -2 over 1, so we're multiplying -3 times -2, which is +6. That's the numerator, +6, over 2 times 1, which is 2. You can also use your calculator if you need to, but what this becomes right here is 3. Okay, 3 plus b. Okay, that's a b, not a 6, a b. So now again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to solve for b. So all we have to do at this point is subtract 3. Now I'm going to slide this up and over here. I ran out of room. So I have 5 equals 3 plus b. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides of my equation and solve for b. b equals 5 minus 3, which is 2. We've now found b, which means we can go back up to here and fill in our b value, which is our y-intercept. So, plus 2. This is our final answer to this example. Okay, so you might need another example of this before you try one on your own. So let's go ahead and do another one here. Again, we need to write our equation in y equals mx plus b form, which is slope-intercept form. We need to find the value of m, we need to find the value of b, and put them in there. So step 1, find m, which is our slope. Again, our slope formula, m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. If it helps, I would go up here and label this as x and y and x and y. Remember, they're always xy coordinate pairs. This is my first point and this is my second point. So fill those in where they go. Take your time. Y sub 2 is negative 4 minus y sub 1 is 0. X sub 2 in the denominator is 2 minus x sub 1 is 3. Negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4 because we're taking nothing away. And 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Negative divided by negative is positive. 4 divided by 1 is 4. So we've got our slope of 4. Again, what this means is we can come up to this equation right here, and I kind of took up some of my room here, but we're going to write y equals 4x, and then we need to find b still. Alright, which means we are going to write y equals 4x plus b. Okay, that's what we need to find right here. We need to find our b. And in order to find b, we need to only have a variable of b. So we need to fill in a value for x and y. Again, here are two options. I would use the first one here because, again, a 0 is always kind of handy. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and fill in for y. We're going to fill in, we're looking for a y value of 0. And the corresponding x value is 3. Alright, and now we need to solve for b. So 0 equals 4 times 3, which is 12, plus b. Notice that b is not alone. It has the 12 on the same side. We need to subtract that. We can't just bring it over in any other kind of way. We need to subtract 12 from both sides. These are going to cancel. 0 minus 12 is negative 12 equals b. So we've now found our b value, and so now we can go ahead and put this value for b up here in for b. So y equals 4x minus 12. This is the equation that goes through these 2 points. Okay, now try this one on your own, and instead of walking through every single step, I'm just going to show the answer in a couple seconds, and make sure you pause it, try it, and then check to see how you did. Okay, your answer should be y equals negative 1x minus 9. Okay, if you didn't get that, we should check in and see where you're making your mistake.